Hi, it's Josh McEwen here with episode 26 of Dufferin Spotlight on Business, where we bring your community to you by letting you know it's available in the area while highlighting the advantages of shopping local. And this week we are joined by Elizabeth Bryan of Weaverbee Textiles. And Elizabeth has been weaving for over 30 years, mixing fibers and colors, creating hand-dyed and hand-woven scarves, bags, and purses that she makes available for sale through Weaverbee. And that's not all she offers either. The high degree of detail exhibited in Elizabeth's work complements the vivid colors to create truly unique products that can be seen on weaverbee.ca and their social media pages. Weaverbee is a member of the Handweavers Guild of America, Ontario Handweavers and Spinners, as well as Headwaters Arts. To learn more about Elizabeth Bryan and her process, check out the Weaverbee website, weaverbee.ca, and follow them on social media. Big thanks to Elizabeth for her time and for making this possible, and thanks to you, the audience, for listening. I'm Josh McEwen, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. Thanks. Hi, it's Josh McEwen here with Dufferin Spotlight on Business, and today I'm joined by Elizabeth Bryan of Weaverbee Textiles. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining me. Can we start off with you giving us a brief background on yourself and your business for those who may not already know?
Hi, Josh. Thanks so much for having me. Yes, so I am a weaver, a hand weaver. I've been a weaver for over 30 years, and it started out as a hobby for me. I started down in Toronto, actually, when I lived down there, and I enjoyed it so much, like on and off over the years, that I decided last year to make it a business. So I've started my business, Weaverbee Textiles, and I work out of my home office here in Orangeville.
Awesome. So what are Weaverbee's most popular products or services?
Well, I create luxury hand-woven goods. So generally scarves, shawls. I've started into tea towels, which seem really popular. I also hand dye scarves. So those are quite popular as well.
They're really nice. I really like them.
Thank you.
and I've seen some purses as well. If I
That's right. I make purses as well. Yeah, handbags. I have a small line of those. I'm thinking of expanding that a little bit this coming year. And I'm looking at getting into custom guitar straps, actually, as something, a side sort of piece. Yeah.
Wow. I think that's really cool. So that is something truly unique that people could, and again, like it's like, I don't know if people, like, again, if people haven't checked it out, like you should really check out weaverbee.ca and check out the gallery section. Cause like you'll see all the different products that Weaverbee offers. And like there's some truly amazing looking stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not a purse guy, but I mean, like there's a cool looking purse on there that I thought was pretty neat.
Thank you. Well, it's a combination of hand-dyed fabric and commercially available fabric, and then put together, within the pattern. So it's not completely hand-woven. It's the mixture. But that's what kind of is fun too, is on top of weaving it and creating the pattern is then, not for the purse, but for the fabric, and then putting it together with an interesting commercially available fabric is also quite fun.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Because I mean, like we've talked earlier, and I mean, just the process of your work, like especially like it's really, really neat. Like, and I mean, it seems like a good way for people to like truly like let go and relax. At least with some of it. I can't speak for all that you do, but I mean, some of it seemed like it is a good way to let go, and enjoy it.
It is. It's very enjoyable. For me, the most enjoyable part is putting all the colors together and then seeing how the pattern allows the colors to come to life. Color is really my favorite part.
I bet. Because I mean, if people should really check it out again, like the gallery section, like with the hand dyed stuff, like it's really, really cool. Like, I mean, I'm colorblind, but I mean, it's really neat seeing all the different colors and things like that are and I mean, again, just listening to the process of how it works. Like, if you don't mind, can you give us like a little bit of background on the process of hand dyeing?
Yeah, absolutely. For the hand dyed things, there's two different processes actually that I use. One would be to dye yarn, and so I would just mix up the different dye colors and put it on the yarn in a particular pattern. And once it sits for a while, then you rinse it out and you've got your dye, your dyed yarn. With the snow dyeing, what I do is I take a silk scarf that's called a blank. So it's just white. And then it's processed first with what's called a mordant, which just allows the dye to adhere a little bit better to the fiber. And then I put the silk under the snow, and the dye is placed on top. and then it's allowed to melt through. And so it mixes with each other, and it mixes with the snow and the water, and creates interesting patterns. And then when it's all melted through, it's kind of, you get what you get, which is what's really great about it, because it's sort of an unknown. You can be a lot more specific if you're dyeing yarn and you're putting color in a particular area. But when you're snow dyeing, it mingles and mixes together. So it's always unique. And I can kind of guess what it's going to look like, but I don't always know for sure. And that's really fun.
Wow, like that's what I was meaning. Like it seems like a good way to like go, because like you said, like you don't really know what you're going to come up with. And I mean, like if you're a certain kind of person, I mean that is a good way to relax, because I mean, like you can't control certain things.
That's right.
You have to accept it.
You just have to let it go.
So I also, from what I understand, you're a member of many groups as well.
That's right. Yes, I'm a member of the Burlington Handweavers and Spinners Guild, and they meet down at the Art Gallery of Burlington. Unfortunately, we haven't met very much in person this year because of COVID, but we've done a lot of Zoom meetings and get-togethers. That's really great. And I belong to the Dufferin Arts and Headwaters Arts groups.
Awesome.
Well as the Ontario Handweavers and Spinners and the Handweavers Guild of America.
Wow. So yeah, you're really involved. I mean, especially on the weaving side. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it makes sense. You're a weaver, so maybe like that's.
It's true. It's true. It's nice to hang out with like-minded people. You tend to learn a number of things. You get opportunities for educational programming, and so yeah, it's great.
Well, I imagine it's a good way to network for sure, and like you said, learn things. Because I mean, like, I personally don't know many. I mean, like, in like any kind of art, like arts, or like any kind of like skill or profession, like it is good to have like those ways to congregate. Because I mean, it's not easy, especially in a small community like ours. Like, there's not that many people that may have the same interests as others.
No, it's true. There are a few weavers around, but there aren't too many that I know of locally. So yeah, it's nice to meet with other like-minded folks.
100%.
No matter what you do.
Yeah, like we are lucky to have these groups, because I mean it is a good way, especially to get new people into it. Because I mean it can be intimidating for a lot of people. I mean it is for me.
Well, that's very true, actually. And when I first started weaving, I wasn't part of a group because I did find it a little intimidating. But I was part of a class, and so that helped a little bit. And then as I got a little more confident, I started to join other groups and found out that they're really quite lovely, and they're more than willing to help. And so whoever's out there should contact a local group, and contact me if you're looking for a local group, and I can maybe help you out.
You're part of enough of them.
I'm part of enough, yeah.
So are you working on any major project or jobs?
Well, right now I've been working on a lot of online shops because, of course, with COVID, none of the in-person marketplaces have been able to happen this year. I'm hoping that for next fall, but most of them seem to be in the fall and leading up to Christmas. So I'm hoping that by next fall, we can maybe start to have some more in-person markets, but we'll see. So I'm working on those. I have the Arts Burlington and the Handmade Marketplace online are both still online until almost Christmas. And then I have things right now at the Holiday Treasures Market at the Dufferin Museum, or the Museum of Dufferin. And that is on until this coming weekend. So there is in-person shopping there or online. And there's over 50 artisans. So it's quite a lot of stuff up at the museum, and it's really a lovely display. So that's, other than that, and then working towards next year, it's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Wow. Yeah, like you said, like we're lucky to have these online markets. Like I know Connie Munson with the Headwaters Arts that you mentioned earlier, like she did a piece on a few of these online markets that you mentioned, and like they are really helpful. Like I know I've spoken with a few of them for some of the other things I've worked on with Dufferin News. Like they are really amping up during all this because they are needed. Well,
they are. They're needed both for the people who want to be able to do some local shopping and support a local artisan, and they're really quite essential for us, the local artisans, who have no other avenue to sell our pieces. No other large group that we can tap into or access, unless you've been in business for a long, long time and have a really big already, email following or something. And even then, these are the things that I make and that other artisans make tend to be something you want to see in person. You want to touch it. You want to see how it's going to look. And that's very tricky online. So we're doing our best, but it's really great that these markets have jumped into the online arena and made it possible for us to continue out there.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, and the thing is too, it's like you have good names behind these online markets that you're participating in. Like there's the Museum of Dufferin, like you mentioned, Arts Burlington. That's an established organization. Like versus random ones just popping up, or you going on like or any of you people, like anybody going on to Amazon or something like that, or Etsy or something like that, where you're like. At least with these organizations, they're kind of giving you like a little bit of an endorsement, like saying like, okay, well, these are quality products. Like these are artists that we know. Like again, the Museum of Dufferin, Arts Burlington, Headwaters Arts, they're not doing one. Sorry, no,
but they're all the ones that you're mentioning are all juried shows.
Yeah.
So you do have to apply to be in them. Which is nice. So they have a certain, caliber of artwork that they want to see in their show, and they have a certain vision about how they want the show to look. So it's fitting in with that as well. So there's lots of opportunities out there, which is great. There's a little something for everybody.
Well, that's great because again, like it gives you that little seal of approval. Like, and again, that. Plus, never mind it being like a local hub too for local stuff. Like, but I mean, it is nice to have that. Like you said, it's juried, so there is that kind of like a little bit of a seal on it. Like versus again, just something because you know how online is. It's easy to get lost in there, and you end up with something that's not good. Like, so I mean, it's great to see that there is a curator of some sort. Yes, it's true. That's awesome.
So
that's
kudos
awesome.
to all those people who are running shows. That's a huge job. And to pivot everything online is quite a big deal. So they've done, in a short period of time, they've done a tremendous amount of work, and kudos.
It's pretty impressive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So where do you think most of Weaverbee's competition comes from?
Well, I think online, really. In terms of weaving itself and like apples to apples, there are lots of great weavers out there, and we're all trying to do the same types of things, I suppose, the same types of products, and on the same platforms, or on Instagram and Facebook and that sort of thing. But just in terms of trying to sell something that's handmade, the biggest competitor would be, as you say, like Amazon, Etsy. There's a lot of handmade things on Etsy, but there's a lot of things that aren't really quite so much anymore. But they're big names, and they're easy. People know them, so they're easy to find.
Well, like when I'm looking at your stuff, when I was looking at the gallery and things like that, especially the weaving stuff, you use a loom from what I understand, and like it's so intricate, to me, like it's really cool. I mean, you can really tell quality. Like, I mean, you really can, at least.
Thank you.
Like it really does look like that, because I mean, you know what clothes are like these days when you buy them from a lot of the stores, and it's not that consistent. True. Like the pattern you have there, like it's very intricate, very detailed, very fine attention to detail. Like it's.
Thank you very much. Well, it's there's certainly a difference between something that's handmade and something that's purchased from a store, but and some will appeal to different people. Some people may not be interested in the handmade look, and that's totally fine. Some people may not feel that they want to spend the money for a handmade item. I understand that. There's a large following of people who like to purchase from a local artisan, who like the idea of something handmade, who are willing to spend the money on something that's taken a long time to create. And then there are people who aren't willing to do that, and that's okay too. But definitely speed, I think sometimes, cost, and not even speed, I guess, in acquiring. You can do Prime with Amazon, get it the next day. Those things are hard to compete against. But really, the truth is not to try. I mean, I can't compete with a $10 scarf that comes the next day from China. Like I can't, and I don't intend to. So, and I don't know any artisans that intend to. But so there's really, I guess, different markets.
100%. Now it's like I got off on that, but I mean, like I was just kind of more like saying, like, would you get something that resembles something like that, like when you go on Etsy or something like that, or Amazon, and what you get doesn't necessarily match the pictures?
Yes.
And
yes.
You can really tell the details. And sorry, I wasn't very clear with what I was saying at all. Like it was more like, because again, like when you're on these online markets, you are getting that kind of seal of approval. And I'm looking at, like, when I look at your gallery, like it's really high quality stuff. And I mean, if you're going to go and try to buy something like that, and you're going to go on Etsy or Amazon, it's a little scary, because I mean, I hear horror stories, especially about Etsy, surprisingly, about just knockoff products and people using other people's photos and stuff to sell their products.
Yes, I've heard that. And
it's not great. I mean, it's terrible, because I mean, like you creators, like, you guys put a lot of effort in your work, and I mean, the detail, again, I appreciate detail, like. And it's like you do great work. I mean, and it'd be horrible. Like, you get what you pay for is basically what I'm saying. And again, we're lucky to have these online markets to help give you the seal of approvals. Because I mean, if you're just resorting to Etsy to get a quality product like yours, it's easy to get lost in there, and Amazon even more so.
True. Well, thank you for saying.
Well, it's 100% true, because I mean, it's easy to get lost online. I love being online. But it's the easy place to get lost.
It definitely has been. I've been lost in there many times myself.
But so I mean, I think we kind of touched on it there, but I want to make sure I make sure we capture everything. But what do you think makes Weaverbee different from the competition?
I'm going to say my use of color. I'm not afraid of color at all, and I like a lot of it. And the more the merrier is kind of my thing. So color is my jam is one of the hashtags I like to use on Instagram. And that's, again, a certain market. And not everybody's interested in a ton of, like, really bright color. They might like it, but they might be not comfortable wearing it. So that's okay too. But I think that's sort of my niche is the brighter the better.
Okay, I can definitely see that. We need that nowadays. Oh, we need brightness,
especially right now in this sort of COVID winter that we're all entering.
Yeah. So what do you think customers should look for when doing business with somebody in your profession?
Well, I think, as you mentioned a little bit ago, the quality of the workmanship, for sure. Things like the finishing touches, sort of like the fringe on the end. Nice straight edges, and color, pattern. Not to say that something with a very minimal pattern isn't well done. I don't mean that at all. It's really just sort of consistency, I guess, in pattern is more what I meant throughout the piece.
Makes a lot of sense, because I mean, like that. As someone that doesn't know fashion very well and doesn't pay it, I mean, I appreciate detail, but I mean, I don't pay attention to what I do with myself because I'm colorblind and things like that. It's easy to clash, and when you clash, it doesn't look well. And so consistency, you need to be able to play with your patterns well. And
definitely,
you know what you're doing.
Just looking for things like mistakes, skips. That would be the biggest one. And I would hope that anyone who created something would want to give you the best possible product, because it's a reflection of what we create. So I wouldn't want to give you something that had mistakes in it. That wouldn't make me feel good as an artisan.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing with something handmade. I mean, you see that a lot. Like, you know how like it is easy. Like you like a lot of the time you are going to get imperfections with certain things. Like, and that's
sure.
part of it being handmade, and that's part of the good. That's actually part of the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a difference between that and the factory stuff. You see stuff you see at the factory and stuff like that, where there's inconsistencies because of just.
That's right.
Yeah.
Something cut crooked or yep. I know what you mean.
Or just lack of caring, just because they didn't care. Like, I have a lot of clothes that you can tell. It's just like when I put up some of my nicer clothes up to some of my regular everyday clothes, you can definitely tell the difference.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's just things like that. And like you said, consistency.
Consistency. Yeah.
So anyways, so moving on to COVID, like you mentioned, what beyond complying with health orders, what changes has Weaverbee Textiles had to make to adapt to the new environment?
Well, I actually had to change almost everything about how I sell things, because as I mentioned, I was going to be doing some shows, in-person shows this year, and that was really my business plan was created around doing shows. So I had 5 separate juried shows booked for this year, and none of them happened. But I think 4 of them ended up online. So that's great. It's a little bit different, but I've had to pivot to that. And so there's, a learning curve there too. As a weaver, I'm sort of less good with, I shouldn't say just because I'm a weaver, but I'm just, I've had to learn some of the technical things that weren't part of what I had to know prior.
100%. Like, relying more on like product photos, I imagine.
Photography is a big one, and then getting that message out there. So I've had to learn quite a bit about Instagram and stories and reels and all of that, social media.
Yeah, I tried my best before starting this to get off of social media. I was off of it for a couple of years, for about 3 years, and then when I started this up, I was like, oh, you gotta come back.
Yeah.
And
that's a rabbit hole too. It's really easy to get sucked into spending hours and hours, every day, sort of trying to create that post and follow with people. And so also learning to structure that into my day.
On top of everything else.
That's right.
So are there any changes that Weaverbee has made that you think will be beneficial, or that are beneficial or will last into the future, you think?
Oh, I think definitely being online will last for sure. And I think all of the things that I've learned about social media so far have been great and will continue, and I hope to improve on that. So, and I believe that these shows, as much as we hope they'll be in person, I think that some of them might continue with an online component, such as what the Dufferin Museum is doing right now, having in person, but then some of the items are also available online for people. I think that will become more of the norm, but I'm not a seer, so we'll see.
I think that's great, because there's a lot of things that just, when you put it online, it makes it more accessible. Whether it's an online shop, and I know that with just some of the market people I know that run markets that I've spoken with, like just for example, Shop with Purpose, Shop with Purpose market that benefits local charitable organizations and nonprofits every month. They've seen their customer base expand widely. Because they moved online, and I imagine a lot of these other online markets as well. And
oh, for sure. I've sold things across Canada, down in the United States. I've sent things off to the UK. So wow. It's those are people I would not have seen in person at one of the other markets. But so it's there's good and bad, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I think that will continue.
It'd be good if they it'd be great if they kept at least some kind of an online component. But I mean, it's hard to replace the in-person experience, like you've mentioned, especially with the kind of products that you offer. Like there's a tremendous benefit to being in person.
Agreed.
And but I mean, also at the same time, the photos I've seen are very I like them a lot. Like you can actually get up close and see, where some people may be too afraid to get up close and touch things and get that close and see
well, that's true too, actually. Yeah, and I can post videos of the weaving, whereas I couldn't bring my loom to a show, so I could show people how it's actually created, which they might not be able to see otherwise.
See, that's great, because I mean, again, it also just gives people a little bit more story behind the product as well.
Yeah,
so that's great. Awesome. So what was the biggest problem that Weaverbee experienced during COVID?
I would say at first it was that belief that there wouldn't be any shows at all.
Yeah,
that was a big one. That was a big concern. And then when the shows went online, then it was learning all of the other things that had to go along with that, and taking good photographs. And it was surprising how much time that actually took.
Yeah.
A photo, everything I do is individual. So a photo of each item, as opposed to, I make 20 of this sort of thing. So there was just sort of again, that's kind of the technological learning curve, and the time involved in that. But that's okay. I learned things.
Well, that's awesome, because I mean, it is beneficial in many areas, like you mentioned, again, just being able to promote the process of what you do. So that is great, because I mean that is a benefit that, like you mentioned, what you weren't able to get out there before.
Yeah, I've learned some good things.
Awesome. So when you were younger, did you think you'd be doing this?
No, I didn't actually. When I was younger, I wanted to be an archaeologist. And I took that at university, and I actually worked in museums for a number of years.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back to school and I did interior design, because I wanted to do exhibit design work in the museums. So I took a course in interior design, and I ended up getting I did a 2-year program in that. And then I worked as an interior designer for a number of years. And then I just decided I really wanted to, what I really always come back to is the weaving. That's what I really want to be doing. So it's sort of taken me a while to get here, but in terms of as a career. But I realized that everything I've done has always been creative. I created exhibits and displays, and then I created things with interior design, and then so there's always been that component of creativity and color.
Wow.
An odd route, perhaps, but
yeah, I was just that's an interesting path. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, it makes sense. It's just it's an interesting one. That's really cool, especially archaeology. I mean, wow, that would have been interesting. I mean, especially, and it's great that again that led you into the museum and so many that. That's great. That's such a cool path.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So where was your first job, and what did you do?
My very, very first job?
Yeah.
I was a Santa's elf, actually,
Oh, yeah?
at Square One. Yep.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in Mississauga, and I was, 13, 14, and I worked as a Santa's elf at the mall. And then in university, I worked for an insurance company in the summers.
Oh, cool.
And then after university, I started working in museums.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you able to share any museums, in particular, anything?
Oh, I worked short contracts usually. So I worked at the ROM for a little bit, and I worked at the, it's called PAMA now, at the Brampton Museum. I can't remember what it was called at the time. It was the Art Gallery in Brampton and Museum.
So,
Peel Heritage Complex it was called. I'm sorry. And I worked at the museum up in Southampton. Redid a gallery up in there for a while. Wow. And yeah, various contracts in various places, and sometimes more than one contract at the same museum. museums tend to, or at the time anyway, were hiring people based on grants that they could get from the government, and they were usually for a short period of time. So they would hire us for a little bit of time, and then we'd go off and do something else, and then they would get another grant, and then we would come back. So, yeah.
That's right. More people, like, it gets you more of like an experience. Well, there's pros and cons to it, of course, but I mean, like, it's a good way to like just see all these different things, like, and also just taking all these different aspects of culture. Because I mean, I imagine all these museums cover different things to a certain extent.
Yes, that's right. It became a really difficult way to make a living, though. So that's why I ended up going back to school and doing interior design, and sort of changing my path at that point.
But I can see, like you mentioned, like it did lead to something, like you see, like you're doing some interior design work there, so it led to it. So I mean, that's a really cool path. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Pleasure.
So I think we already covered it. But again, we like you went to school for archaeology, right? Like that was your education? Yeah,
I went to U of T.
Oh, nice.
And I got a degree there. It was actually in physical anthropology, but most of my courses were in archaeology. They didn't have an archaeology degree per se. And then I kind of minored in art history. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I say kind of because I never really officially declared it, but I had plenty of courses in that. So.
I had a similar thing with psychology. So.
Yeah.
But so did you have any major investors or?
Well, I was really fortunate. Actually, I went through the Small Business Enterprise and went through their Starter Company Plus program, and I did receive a business grant through the Starter Company Plus program. So that was great, and then I put that towards my new loom, actually.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So do you have any advice for those starting their own business?
Oh, my advice would be to tap into as many people as you possibly can. Ask anyone and everyone for help, for information, for any resources that they can provide you. Check out your small business enterprise and go from there. Definitely, there's lots and lots of information out there, and some of it can be kind of confusing, so get help wherever you can.
Yeah, that is definitely good advice, because I mean, people are what make businesses run. I mean, and they're so willing to share. It's amazing. I mean, everybody just wants everyone else to succeed, and they're so willing to give you their knowledge and share support, and it's wonderful. 100%. Like it's amazing how many people like don't take advantage of the resources that are readily available from people that are eager to help.
Yeah, it's true. And they may not know about them, but hopefully they ask somebody. Yeah. Just ask. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
100%. You can't get what you don't ask for a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's true.
So what would you consider to be the biggest challenge that Weaverbee Textiles will experience in the years ahead?
I think it will be probably the technological aspects of getting the word out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just because that's my challenge right now. Yeah, I think it's going to be it's hard sometimes to reconcile. I mean, what I do hasn't changed very much in hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, there's aspects to it, but the technology has stayed the same essentially. But there's so many other advances in the world, and so you kind of marry those two together, and that'll be a bit of it's more of a challenge of getting it around in my head, learning how to do a reel on Instagram.
Yeah, that is. Some people make it look so easy.
Yeah,
and I like to consider myself a technically savvy person, but doing a reel on Instagram or doing a TikTok is something I don't think I could ever figure out. It seems like a lot of different camera use. Like it just seems very complicated, and it's probably not, but It seems like it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, it's, I need to ask people.
That's
right.
That's probably the best.
Yeah, we both need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And photography. I think I take all of my photos right now with my iPhone.
Yeah.
And they're not too bad, I don't think, but I generally set up a box with a piece of black velvet and I wait for a cloudy day and I take some photos. But I think going forward, it's going to be so important to have really good photos that I need to step up my photography game. So I think that's, again, another bit of technology that I'm going to have to learn to excel in, or at least be pretty confident in.
It's amazing what you can do with these phone cameras nowadays, and especially when, it's amazing how many people just look at the photos on their phone. So, I mean, to go anything beyond the phone camera a lot of the time doesn't produce the results that it used to back in the day. Because, again, if people are just watching these things on their phone, like I'm usually on my computer when I'm watching things, but apparently the numbers show that it's a lot of phone usage.
Yep.
And you don't capture the good resolutions and things like that all the like the good cameras provide, which is a shame because I know there is great photographers out there. There's some great work and you're not able to capture it on the phone. If you're looking at it on a phone screen, you're going to lose out. You
lose out a little bit. Yeah, it's true.
It's even if you have a nice camera, that's the thing that's a shame because it's something I debated for myself is going out there and getting a nice camera or just the best camera is the one that's in your pocket, like the one that you have.
Yeah. Well, the one that's in your hand at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. It's photography is something I've always actually really enjoyed doing, but I've never been able to wrap my head around all the little details of it and f-stops and all that sort of. For some reason, I can't retain that in my head, and that's a big challenge for me.
Me too. You're not alone.
That's why I love my camera phone because there you go.
Exactly. Awesome. So is there anything you'd like to say to the people of Dufferin before we wrap it up?
I would just like to say thank you to the people of Dufferin for being so welcoming to all small businesses, including mine, and to tell them to please check out my website. It's weaverbee.ca or my Instagram, which is Weaverbee, and I look forward to seeing them on there.
Awesome. Thank you. And just to make sure that's the best way to get in touch is to.
That would be the best way to get in touch with me. Yeah.
Awesome.
Send me a message through there.
And I forgot to ask this, but I want to make sure I hit on it. Are you looking forward to anything in the near future?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm looking forward to getting my new loom up and running. It's just put it together and it came in pieces. And it's a computerized loom. So I've got, what that means is I can design the patterns on the computer, and the computer will interact with the loom. It will tell the loom what pick is coming next, so that when I'm working it, the proper shafts will come up and down in the right order. So it helps to eliminate errors and allows me to greater pattern because I have more access to more shafts. Shafts are the things that the threads go through. They go up and down in a particular order to create the pattern. So I have a greater number of them now. And so I can do a greater variety of pattern and more intricate pattern. And that's kind of exciting. So just playing around with that and enjoying all of the things it has to offer me.
Wow. So again, be sure to check out the Weaverbee Instagram because, you'll most likely see some of the work on there.
You will for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Elizabeth. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Josh. It was really nice speaking with you today.
Thank you. And again, everybody, that was Elizabeth Bryan of Weaverbee Textiles, which you can find at weaverbee.ca. And I'm Josh McEwen, and thank you so much for listening to Dufferin Spotlight on Business. Thanks. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. Hope you enjoyed it. Big thanks to Elizabeth for helping make this possible, and thanks to you, the audience, for listening. To keep up with everything that's going on with Weaverbee, Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, or check out their website, weaverbee.ca. If you would like to learn more about the people and businesses that make Dufferin what it is, make sure to check back every Tuesday for new episodes. The easiest way to stay up to date is to follow us on social media, subscribe to the Dufferin Spotlight YouTube channel, or wherever else you prefer to listen. We're available on pretty much every podcast platform, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. If there is somewhere else you would like to listen and we're not on it, please let us know through our website. We'll do our best to make it happen. If you haven't checked out our last episode, it was with Kimberly Van Ryn of Branching Out Support Services, which is located at 5 First Street in Orangeville. Branching Out creates beneficial and engaging opportunities for everyone, with a focus on including people with developmental differences from our community. They manage an amazing day program, which emphasizes a wide variety of skill building with the intent of preparing their participants for successful and happy lives with us here in our community. For those of you who missed it, Kim was featured in episode 16 of our show, talking about branching out soon after it started, so be sure to check that out too. For this episode though, Kim was kind enough to speak with me on Boss's 1-year anniversary on December 1st, 2020, where we discussed the pandemic, how it's affected Boss, changes they've had to make to accommodate their clients, and how they just expanded into a new space called New Growth, and a campaign they're running, 1 year, 1 community, that you can take part in. This is a great story of a new unique business succeeding despite everything that has been thrown at us this year, or 2020. And they are still managing to find ways to help the community while doing this, which is great. If you want to learn more about Branching Out Support Services, check out their new website, branchingoutsupportservices.ca, and follow them on social media. If there's a local business you would like to see on Dufferin Spotlight on Business, be sure to reach out to us and let us know. Also, be sure to check out Dufferin News. Anyways, I'm Josh McEwen. Thank you for listening. And until next time, get to know your community and shop local. Thanks.